with you all in person today. The Rocky Mountain Singers became an important focus of artistic expression in Calgary's LGBTQ2 community. So in the last month, I conducted interviews with 12 former members, and every single one expressed very fond and cherished memories of Rocky Mountain Singers. The chorus actively built and strengthened the gay community in Calgary, and through their participation, choristers created enduring friendships that have lasted into the present. Rocky Mountain Singers had a well-known public presence and performed regularly. They were music ambassadors for many gay community organizations, including Calgary Pride. The chorus participated actively in a growing international gay choral movement in the 90s and represented both Calgary and Canada at national and international festivals. And they paved the way for future choral organizations in the city, including our contemporary. Over the next hour, we'll have a conversation about Rocky Mountain Singers. I found some interesting archival footage, images, and song as we remember this historic and noteworthy organization. Okay, Rocky Mountain Singers was started with a brainchild from Luke, who went to a 1989 gala festival in Seattle because of his friend Dan Worsley, and was somehow inspired to create a gay chorus in Calgary. He wrote in A Brief History of the Choir, "I made a few decisions on that flight home from Seattle. 1, to attend the next Gala Festival in Denver in 1992. 2, to attend with a chorus from Calgary, because that was the only possible way to have a better experience than I had in Seattle. And 3, the choir's name would be Rocky Mountain Singers." And one of the people I interviewed said Luke was like an apostle. He had a vision and he was bringing the city along. So the first evidence I could find in the gay press about Rocky Mountain Singers was in the September issue of Modern Pink, and that was the monthly gay publication. Luke had been networking all summer looking for other people who might want to sing, and he met Carl Siegfried that summer, who had aspiration to get a group of Calgary singers to go to the Gay Games in Vancouver in 1990. So they joined forces, they did much networking, knocked on doors, made a lot of phone calls. This is before the internet, if you can imagine that, and realized they needed to gather a whole bunch of resources together and figure out a place to perform and practice. They, in October, had their first rehearsal at the MCC Church on 16th Avenue, where OVC is connected to now, the Unitarian Church. And 8 singers joined together with their first musical director, Bill Bradley, who was the music director at Wesley United Church. And a lot of their early concerts were at Wesley United too. They had started learning Christmas music, and from those humble beginnings, did concerts at seniors' homes, and then eventually in 1990 did their very first big gala concert at Knox United Church, Something to Sing About, and that poster was printed on a dot matrix printer made by Patrick, Luke's partner at the time, and accented with highlighters. And then I wanted to show you a quick video just to put the context of the time of 1990 into your minds. This is from CBC. This is the very first Pride rally. And please note at the end, you'll see the Rocky Mountain Singers performing. This is where all the driving is coming from.
And we look forward to the time when people are not ignorant and are not afraid, and a time when in fact we will not need to have a Gay Pride Week.
Gay Pride Week is about fighting bigotry and hatred. To make their point, just over 100 homosexual men and women came to Central Memorial Park for a rally tonight. They carried signs, "Stop bigotry and brutality," and "Our kids are just fine the way they are."
In Alberta, we want recognition and protection against discrimination as presented in the Individual Rights Protection Act. Currently, we're the only minority group that is not protected under that legislation.
Gay Pride Week is held in cities across North America. In Vancouver, thousands turn out every year.
For the moment, Project Pride
But in
is
Calgary,
proud
fear has kept gay people in the closet. Still, this is the city's first gay rally. Some people were brave enough to embrace publicly, but others wore masks to make a point and to hide their faces.
There is a great fear out there of a lot of repercussions because we don't have rights.
Well, I think the community needs to pull together a lot more. I mean, there's more than just 100 gay people in Calgary.
But that's all that's here, though.
Yeah.
So what does that say?
People are still scared to come out. Families, I mean, I don't know how my family is going to react if they see this on the news, but it's just a risk that we have to take.
It's hard for you, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, my job is in jeopardy, my home's in jeopardy, you're right. Things like that happen.
So what about attitudes in a conservative province like Alberta? Do you think you'll ever be able to change that?
As every year goes by, we feel that more and more people will come out and, in fact, support their own community. And some of us who are going ahead will make it a little bit easier for people coming behind us.
We shall not give up the fight, we have only started.
Wayne Nikituk, CBC News, Calgary.
So that first concert in 1990 was that week. So the Pride Rally in Memorial Park happened, and then 4 days later in June, the very first big concert came up. And Luke says that that felt like the very first official Rocky Mountain Singers concert. It was set up cabaret style and it was sold out. It went very well. Backstage, the level of anticipation was through the roof. People were terrified about walking out there and performing, but there was this sense of exhilaration, accomplishment, and relief afterwards. And Dan, who is a chorister and a teacher, would get the choristers to hold hands and do calming exercises, and it really helped started dealing with performance anxiety and stress. And this is just to highlight that later on, reporting about Pride in 1990, a special highlight of the week was the outstanding performance by the Rocky Mountain Singers. Over 200 people attended the concert and everyone loved it. So it was a very good launch for RMS. And then about 15 or 16 of the members went to Vancouver to participate in the Gay Games and the festival chorus. And that also was a momentous moment for many of the people who went. There were a lot of gays and lesbians who had descended on Vancouver for the Gay Games. And a bunch of the gala community, the gala chorus community, showed up to participate as well. The festival chorus was led by Carol White, who was from Denver. And this is from the 1990 festival chorus program. And here's an image of people rehearsing in Vancouver. And here's another picture with some of the Rocky Mountain Singers in attendance. And Patrick told me a story at this time, something that was really memorable for him. To participate in the festival chorus, you had to learn about 14 songs. And one of the songs was called Living with AIDS, and it had a hymn-like quality. And Carol directed it very professionally, cut up all the sections into bits and rehearsed all the sections. But at one point in the rehearsals, she asked, if there's anyone who's comfortable standing up and who's currently living with AIDS, would you mind standing up if you feel comfortable? And would just like to acknowledge your strength. And Carl, who was one of the founding members of Rocky Mountain Singers, stood up with a couple other people. And then when people looked around, they noticed more and more men standing up from around the festival chorus, and there was, it wasn't a sentimental moment, it was just a very powerful moment. And Patrick noted that the women that were in our chorus took it to heart, that the men were going through something very important. And Michael told me that their sensitivity was very helpful in those years when men were dying of HIV and AIDS. And then this is the closing ceremonies at the Vancouver Gay Games, and there's the festival chorus there. So we come back to Calgary, and recruitment is on because Luke still has the passion to bring the choir to Denver. And so Luke, I'm going to get you to unmute, and I'm going to stop the slideshow.
Okay, I think I'm good.
Okay. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay. There you are. Okay. There's so many people on the screen, I can't see you. So Luke, in your own words, can you tell me the origin story? What gave you this drive and passion to create a gay and lesbian choir in Calgary?
So again, you've talked about some of the beginnings of it. I'd been singing with a church choir in Calgary for 5 or 6 years. And my friend Dan Worsley from Vancouver Men's Chorus said, you know, Luke, you'd probably be interested in this event in Seattle where the Gay and Lesbian Association of Choruses get together. There's going to be 42 choruses there, all singing at once, and they're all gay and lesbian performers. It's over an entire week. So I thought, yeah, that sounds like the kind of thing I would do. So I signed up and went as an individual participant. And the only way you could join in the chorus was to be one of the group performers. So at the end of the week, after rehearsing during the day, you would join in a whole group chorus where there would be members from all the different choruses who were interested in doing that. So I got to sing on the last day on stage with just some of the other singers who had come to this event. There were 2,500 people there. In that chorus, in that men's chorus, there were maybe 100 of us. But it was such an empowering moment. And I thought, you know, the only way this thing could be better was if I came with people from Calgary and we had our own chorus. And during the week, I'd seen places like Des Moines, Iowa. Here's a city that at that time was less than half the size of Calgary. And they sent at least a dozen singers. There were places like Omaha, Nebraska, which was smaller than Calgary as well, and they had probably 20 singers. If a city that size could do it, surely our city could do it. I was on fire. When I got on the plane and then we were flying home, I still have my little festival guide, and on the inside pages, I penciled in a dozen different possible names. What would we call a chorus that came from Calgary? You know, the Stampede City Men's Chorus, the Chinook Chorus, the Cowtown Chorus. And then finally, something like Rocky Mountain Men's Chorus came to mind. And I thought, yeah, that sounds right, Rocky Mountain. When I got back, I started connecting with people. So this was, the event in Seattle was July 2nd to 8th. By July 21st, I had put an advertisement on Gay Lines that we were going to be forming a gay men's chorus in Calgary, and I gave them my contact info. So if anyone phoned to ask about this was pre-internet, so that was what you had to do. By the middle of August, I had met Carl Siegfried because, again, I'd been phoning anyone I knew who was musical, and I'd learned that Carl had in fact advertised in a magazine called Lavender Times, which was put out by the Calgary Women's Collective. And he'd been looking, as you said, for people to go to gay games in Vancouver in the following year. So we thought, well, you know, really we should get together because we're both trying to do the same thing. We're trying to get a chorus together and work from that. I still had the idea of doing a men's chorus, but then as I started talking to people at one point, I talked to Susan Anderson. who was out and about in the community. And she said, Luke, you know, if you want to make this a mixed chorus, there are going to be lots of women who are interested in supporting and being part of this. And suddenly the light came on. Oh my God, if we include women, that's twice as many possible people who could join. So suddenly the name became Rocky Mountain Singers. Kevin, you showed that little advertisement. And actually the history of that was, the first ad that I phoned into them was supposed to say, singers wanted for a Calgary chorus of gay and gay positive men. For information, contact me. But then after talking to Carl and talking to Susan, and we thought, no, let's make this a mixed chorus. I phoned them back and I said, no, you have to change this advertisement. And that was the one that you showed. Singers, accompanists, music directors, and arrangement wanted for a new Calgary chorus of lesbians and gays. Let's have fun singing together once a week. Come join the Rocky Mountain Singers. And so we just on the fly, we changed the advertisement on August the 19th. So that was about 6 weeks after I'd left Seattle. There was a Project Pride Dance, and we had a little table set up at the door. We had 18 people who said they were interested and put down their name and phone number. You know, our biggest issue was, I can sing and I can organize, but I don't have a clue about conducting or how to play a piano. So we needed people who are the infrastructure of the choir. So that was the biggest challenge, was to find people. Frank McKittrick, who conducted the Knox United Church Choir, was fairly gay, I think, but he didn't want to be seen as conducting a gay and lesbian choir. So he said, you know, Luke, if you want to get started, I'll do a few rehearsals with you, but I'm not going to be your main conductor. So I thought, well, we got to keep looking. I also talked to a woman who was a real estate or training to be a real estate agent or a real estate agent in Calgary at the time, Terry. And she was very interested. She's very musical and very accomplished, but she said the same thing. She didn't want to be outed as a member of a gay and lesbian chorus, even though it wasn't in the name. So we didn't have an out name. That was another suggestion that Frank McKittrick from Knox had, was don't put gay and lesbian in the name. Calgary's not ready for this yet. So again, I kept talking to different people, and somehow we ended up talking to Bill Bradley, who was the organist and the choir conductor at St. Stephen's Anglican. So he was a gay man, but he was more comfortable in his own skin, and within his own small circle, it was known he was gay, and he was okay with it. And he thought, you know, this might be an interesting thing. I said, we definitely don't want to be doing a lot of religious music. We'd rather be singing the kind of music that speaks to our kind of people. And he said, well, secular music, you know, that could be a challenge for me. And sure, I'm interested in trying. Why don't we meet at Rideau Music, which was the premier music store in Calgary at the time, and we'll look at some repertoire. And sure, let's pick a night and we'll go to it. You know, after that meeting, Kevin, I was on cloud nine. It was like, yes, here it took 6 or 8 weeks to go through my phone book and then contacts of contacts. And then you just keep finding one person who knows another. Actually, along with that, that was when I first met Michael Wright. So he was involved in a theater group that was going to take a show to Gay Games in Vancouver as well. And he was the one who suggested talking to Peggy Ward, who was a musician working in Calgary at that time, a singer, a composer. And in fact, when we did go to a gala festival, we took one of her songs with us. And so it was, you know, just these connections that got started then, and off we went. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that was fabulous. And you told me new things that I had. I mean, I've spent the last 2 weeks deeply immersed in Rocky Mountain Singers, and I just got new details. So I was like jotting notes down. One of the comments that a lot of people said to me, it was a place where they felt safe. And something I talked to a lot of former members about was what you referenced. There was various levels of comfort in being out, but at the same time, being a choir or a publicly performing arts organization is a very sort of public thing. So Can you comment a little bit about how you manage the sort of privacy and safety aspect with the public performance aspect, either yourself or for the choir?
Yeah, I think we started slowly. So the very first few performances we did were that Christmas in 1989. So a few months after we got started. And so for example, Susan Dezengowski, whose grandmother was living in a senior's home, we went to her grandmother's senior home and we performed there. But you know, we were just Rocky Mountain Singers. They had no clue that there was a gay and lesbian organization behind this. When we finally did perform at our first ticketed event, the little poster that you showed, Something to Sing About, in June 1990, people were asked if they wanted to put their name in the program. And some did and some didn't. So some people just put first names. Some people didn't put their name at all. And so again, we were okay with doing whatever people wanted to with that, because here was a printed program, you know, and all those imaginings that go through your head. Someone's going to leave it on a radiator somewhere, and my friend's mother will pick it up and give it to my mom or something like that. You know, you can just imagine all those scenarios. Part of belonging to the Gay and Lesbian Association of Choruses, and I think this was part of their work as an organization, was to nudge people out of the closet a little bit, because one of their key parts of the organization was that in every program you had to print that this chorus is a member of the Gay and Lesbian Association of Choruses, which was a simple little statement, and then something about, you know, promoting the diversity and empowerment of gay people or something like that. I don't remember the exact whole thing, but it was just putting that thing in there was, you know, it was poking your toe out of the out the door, out the closet door. And how far did you want to go?
Yeah. And some people told me that being in the choir felt like a more gentle way, maybe of, you know, coming out as opposed to marching in a pride parade or something like that. It felt like a little bit safer. There was a community around you. I have one more question for you. So in the early years, in a lot of LGBTQ choirs, there's politics, there's gender issues, there's, you know, differences of opinion. There are some people there that are there for the music, other people are there for the social aspects. I heard in those early years, it could have gone off the rails quite a few times, but you were cited as someone who could always bring it back. What were some of your strategies to kind of keep everyone focused on Denver, for example?
You know, there certainly were struggles. I think the older that you get, certainly I have to speak for myself, the more that you realize that often it's an internal struggle that makes it more difficult for an individual. And they will bring that to a group and then express it. It might be saying more about themselves than it is about the group. But then the challenge is to somehow, how can you keep this group together and going in the same direction and still get these people back on board? Kevin, I don't know how I did it. I don't think I did it alone. These were always very difficult issues, and we always had a board, and we would talk about difficult things. We would try and make sure that the music director was insulated from those kind of things. His or her work was music, and the organizational stuff had to land on us. We had to be responsible for doing that. I don't know if I'm being real helpful with.
No, that's a great answer. A lot of people talked about the sort of general level of respect they had for each other, even if they had differences of opinions. That was a sort of glue that kept people going, as well as, you know, the music. And I appreciate you answering my questions, and thank you for founding Rocky Mountain Singers. It has a really impressive legacy. So I'm going to bid you adieu for now and go back to the PowerPoint presentation and move us forward through time. So just bear with me 1 second.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Oh, I have to share. That was my trigger to remember to stop and talk to you, Luke. It's a nice photo. So we left off sort of in 1990, moving into 1991, and still recruiting. Denver was a sort of tantalizing hook for maybe people who wanted to join the chorus. This was the Christmas concert in 1991. Fun costuming. A lot of the Rocky Mountain Singers talked about, you know, crafts and things like that they had to do. This is the board of directors at a board retreat, planning the next year, and rehearsals. A Christmas concert became an annual tradition for the Rocky Mountain Singers, and this was the one in 1991. And then in 1992, some of the Rocky Mountain Singers' swag and identity started to form. Having pins, if anyone remembers the Olympics in Calgary, was an important thing to trade. And so when people were meeting up with other with other courses, they wanted to trade pins. And so this was Luke's design for a Sing with Pride pin. And there's the actual pin when it was made manifest. And they had these swanky pink and white shirts that they performed in. And then in San Diego, leadership of Rocky Mountain Singers went for some professional development training, how to be a better chorus, fundraising, et cetera, et cetera. And the Rocky Mountain Singers was always very connected to other choruses around the world, and they made friendships with other choruses around the world through all these professional development things, as well as going to the national and international choruses. And in 1992, they, sorry, this is concert. In 1992, they ended up on television on Cable 10, if anyone remembers. They did a Christmas concert that was recorded, which I don't have access to, I couldn't find. More rehearsals. The Rocky Mountain Singers went on retreats to different places to refine their craft. And these are all photos from that. Marilyn Perkins was a guest conductor who helped tune up the women's sections in Rocky Mountain Singers. And in 1992, they're getting ready to go to Gala Festival in Denver, and they do a big concert with the Vancouver Men's Chorus. And they got coverage in the Calgary Herald. Here's a poster for that concert. And they went from that concert, took a late night flight to Denver, and then all rolled in to the Gala Festival. Denver, I'll just go back one screen. Denver, which I didn't have any photos of, proved to be a very momentous event. AIDS was sort of at its worst, and when they got there, it felt, with all the courses that were performing, someone described it as sort of the year of death, and the songs were sort of like cultural war songs, and it felt very tribal, but everyone also felt very moved and energized by the event. Carol White, who you met back in 1990, was there, and she came up to Patrick, who was crying, and she said, "Why are you crying?" And this is when they first arrived, and he said, "I just can't believe we made it. It was such a quick journey from 1989 and Luke's vision to where they got to." Suzanne talked about ending up at some gay men's pool party, and she was always adventurous and finding herself in strange places at these gala festivals. And there was a lot of social events as well. It was a very wonderful time for all the choristers. They were very motivated and energized by it. In 1993, they started doing exchanges. This was a fond memory for people. Vancouver came to Calgary and Calgary came to Vancouver. And here's a picture of Rocky Mountain singers and Vancouver singers in front of the Vogue Theatre in Vancouver. Here's when Vancouver came back to Calgary. Another picture of the choir in rehearsal. And in 93, the politics were starting to sort of rear their ugly head again. And there was a lot of people questioning why they were there. Were they there for the music? Were they there for the social reasons, for both reasons? Who was their audience? What was the choir for? These were all questions. And this came out of a, this apparently was part of a 19-page report that was done, sort of introspective report. Richard Gregory stepped up at that point and became chair, and had been good at dealing with politics with it in his role, in his previous volunteer roles. This is a picture of Rocky Mountain Singers going to Edmonton. And Matt, who I interviewed, who also volunteers for the Calgary Gay History Project, looks incredibly young in that photo. And Rocky Mountain Singers were sort of instrumental in seeding or reseeding Edmonton's gay choir, Edmonton's vocal minority. And apparently there was a vocal minority in the 80s that was briefly formed, and it was sort of resurrected with help of the Rocky Mountain Singers. And all these images are just to illustrate how much back and forth and collegiality and camaraderie there were between the choirs. Another aspect of the Rocky Mountain Singers was, for some people, it became like family, and they spent a lot of time socializing as a choir and then just as individuals. And this was actually a Rocky Mountain Singers skating party. This is the Canada Day program, Pride program from 1994. It was special guest Peggy Ward. And again in 95, they're doing concerts to the other courses that they're closest to, Edmonton Vocal Minority and Vancouver Lesbian and Gay Choir. And they're working their way to get to Tampa for the Gala Festival in 1996. They went up to Edmonton to perform at an Edmonton sort of choral festival that was organized by Edmonton Vocal Minority in 95. And then they had their annual Pride concert. So annual Pride concert, annual Christmas concert became fixtures in the Rocky Mountain Singers calendar. Rocky Mountain Singers also would support community groups. And so they're doing the rally for Pride. And this is my memory to stop sharing and ask Nicole to join me. So I'm going to stop and start my video. Nicole, you need to unmute. Can people see?
I am unmuted. Oh my God, I can't believe that picture of me. Oh my God.
I'm doing something kind of strategic, but I don't know if it was working. I'm trying to only refer to people by their first names as sort of a nod to, the past and when people maybe only put their first names in programs. But so I ended up finding a picture of you and cutting it out and blowing it up. So there you go. So Nicole, we had a lovely chat about your time at Rocky Mountain Singers. I was wondering if we could just review some of those memories. Can you share your story about meeting the choir from the very first time? I remember you were taking a bus from Woodbine and it was a bit of an Olympic struggle to get there, but paint the picture of what you're doing that day.
Yeah, when I think about that, it's like literally 28, 29 years ago, because I was 19 when I found the Rocky Mountain Singers. I know, right? Holy crap. I remember I learned about the choir from GLASS, which was the Gay and Lesbian Association for Students and Staff at the University of Calgary, because I ended up going to meet somebody there and realizing that I'm not a university student, so it wasn't really my place to go. And when we talked about my love of music, somebody there suggested Rocky Mountain Singers. And so I ended up getting in contact with someone named Carla and talking to her on the phone and found out where the rehearsal was. And I literally did not have a driver's license when I was 19. So my only way to get around was Calgary Transit. And at the time I was living down in Woodbine because I worked at the Safeway down there. And so I literally back then had to take, a bus, an LRT, and then another bus to get up to the choir rehearsal after my shift at Safeway. And so of course I was late. So when I walked in, I remember Carla said to me, come in and turn left, and that's where we'll be. And so I did, and I recognized that there was another choir in the building because she had told me that there was another choir, but you want to go to the left. And I was like, okay. And when I came in, I was in my 19-year-old attire of my, purple jeans and, black tight tank top and my emerald green silk shirt. Full makeup because I'd been at Safeway with my bright red lipstick on and I had long brown hair then. And when I went into the choir room, everybody stopped singing and looked at me. And they were like, can I help you? And I'm like, of course, I didn't want to out anybody or out myself because, this was not a time it was really safe in Calgary. And I was like, I'm here for the choir. And I can't remember who said it. They're like, oh, I think you want the one downstairs. And I was like, no, I know I want the one upstairs kind of thing. And then just from talking, and I said, I talked to somebody on the phone. And then Carla stood up and she went, Nicole? And I went, yes. And she went, well, come in. Come in. It was like this big surprise of this person here because I didn't look like all the other ladies in the room. I'm just going to say that in a nice, polite way. So I ended up starting to wear a few sweatshirts and t-shirts without my makeup on to show up at choir or rehearsal for a while until I felt more comfortable to be me, and then came back to who I really liked wearing my makeup and stuff. So, but it was a very, it was my first time ever being amongst people who were like me, for the very first time in my whole life. And I have to say, and I always get really emotional talking about it because there's so many people that are here tonight that have played such an instrumental role at me being who I am. Like I think about, Suzanne, who ended up working with my mother and learning about how it was for me coming out to my mom. And she came out to my mom at work to show my mom that there's other people like me. You know what I mean? Like that was huge for me, and, with regards to the fact of Steve Weisbrod, and you talk about Carl, I remember when they picked me up one day when I'd broken up with my girlfriend and I was really upset, and they took me to the Mount Sinai, like retreat kind of thing. It's out near Cochrane, funny enough, where I live now. And we went and had lunch out there together and just walked around together and just spent time together. And Edward was there too. Edward, the monotone angel. Remember monotone angel? So, there's so many great memories, Penny and Sue taking me in at their house for random meals, when I was so poor I couldn't eat, Luke and Patrick, same thing. And, there was, you shared about all the different places that we went. And I remember going out to Vancouver for that particular weekend with the Vancouver Gay and Lesbian Chorus. And as I said, I was a very, very low income person. And I couldn't afford to go to Vancouver. I couldn't take the time off to drive with somebody because I had to work. I had to work Friday and I had to work Sunday. And someone very generously, and to this day, I still don't know who this person is or people are, paid for my plane ticket to go to Vancouver with the group. And I'll never forget that I got to be a part of the group. That I literally had a friend take me to the airport Friday after work. I showed up in Vancouver, literally an hour later. Spent the Friday with everybody rehearsing, Saturday rehearsing, performing, got up Sunday morning and had breakfast with the people that had billeted me. And I went back to the airport and I went back to my shift at Safeway. Like I couldn't believe I'd spent less than 48 hours in British Columbia And it was the most amazing 48 hours I'd ever had at that point in my life. So yeah, the choir has been there for me for a very long time and a very important time in my life. And I sincerely appreciate it. And I really hope somebody will tell me who helped me get to Vancouver, because nobody ever did.
That makes it even more charming, I think, the story. So you shared a lot of very personal things with me and so you can pass on this question if you want, but you told me that the choir came at a really important time in your life and maybe a tender time in your life. Can you talk about how the choir sort of maybe made you more resilient going forward?
I think you're referring to my relationship with my family, right? Yeah. So some of you know, like when I came out to my mother when I was 18, my mom told me that she wished I was dead than gay. So that was something that I didn't expect to hear. And so I lost my relationship with my family for several years. And the choir was there for me for that. Like for people, people really took me under their wing. And yes, I was a lot younger than a lot of people at the time when I joined. I think the nearest age of person to me was almost a decade older than I was. So I thought that, I was the baby gay. Like I was the baby diaper places. And like the guys would always take me out with them and call me out. And like if I came to choir on the bus, I always went home with somebody in a vehicle. You know what I mean? Like somebody always drove me home after choir, after we went to the North Hill Diner for a bite, because we would always do that after rehearsal. I see people nodding their heads, right? And I was so lucky to have so many people be so generous with me when I was so young, and to show me that there are people out there who care about me when I didn't have a family who cared about me. And so it really meant the world to me to have a place I could go to every single week and have people be there for me. Or when we had choir rehearsals outside of the regular time, that people would be there for me. And everyone, like, this is before internet, like this is before texting, like this, nobody carried phones and stuff, so you literally had to catch somebody on the telephone. And people always made sure that I never was alone. And I really appreciated that through some really hard times in my life, I had people there. So it really means a lot to me.
What do you think the legacy of Rocky Mountain Singers is?
Oh, it just acceptance, love, confidence, community, and everlasting like relationships. Like I just seen some of these faces on the screen tonight. I know if any one of these people reached out to me for help, I would be there for help in a heartbeat, in a heartbeat. And even if I heard from Jane, for example, from OVC and said, hey, Nicole, we have somebody, we need some help, this, I know that I would be there for people. I've been very lucky in my life that to move on from where I was, from very humble beginnings, and to be in a very stable like a relationship. Unfortunately, I still don't have a relationship with my family. That kind of was on again, off again. And due to the stuff in Alberta 2 years ago, it kind of fell off again because my mother basically said I have a mental illness now. So Suzanne, who my mother is just, going like this. But when we talk about legacy, it's resiliency, that, through it all, music was there, because music is something that I really embraced as I started to come out. And, through high school, I transitioned that. I tried to go to the church choir route too, like, that Luke talked about. It just didn't work for me at the time, in the 90s. And Rocky Mountain Singers was a way for me to like really involve myself in music and with people, and to really help me embrace who I really am. And so I think in the sense of a legacy, that is the biggest gift I could have ever been given.
Thank you for sharing those very personal memories. And many people I talked to considered the Rocky Mountain Singers more than a choir, and did use the word family quite a bit in my interviews. So thank you, Nicole. We're going to go back to the next section, and let me get back. Oops. Now I lost my place. Here you are. So 1996 was getting on the road to Tampa. The concert at Pride that year was sort of a test run. 96 also was something Judy mentioned to me. One of her most powerful musical memories was this concert that you did, Boys and Girls with Stories, which was sort of a custom built musical for the LGBTQ community. And Richard said something about the songs that Rocky Mountain Singers sang, that it really was powerful. It was civil rights singing in many regards. And there's just another photo which I blew up from this article showing you singing at the Agra rodeo. So Rocky Mountain Singers arrive in Tampa, and again, the Gala Festival has grown. There's more Canadian courses, there's more American courses, and you participated in the parade. And then there's this very iconic photo, which I used in the social media for promoting this event, but apparently Gala uses this image a lot. You were very popular in your white Stetsons, and that's a very Calgary image. And I just want to read something. Tampa was so powerful for so many of the people that went. Elaine Bowman wrote a sort of reflection and published it in QC Magazine. I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs from it. I've never felt such pride in my heart as I did walking and waving my tiny Canadian flag with 22 members of the Rocky Mountain Singers and thousands of other choral singers at the Gala 5 Festival in Tampa, Florida. Tampa is a city that's never witnessed more than a couple of hundred lesbians and gays at their annual Pride March, now had to accommodate 6,000 delegates as they spent 8 days and $26 million while attending the 96 Gala Conference. The cheers, waves, and cries of thanks for coming from individuals lining the routes are memories I will carry forever. Only 3 Canadian choirs attended the festival, and Rocky Mountain Singers was the only Western Canadian representative. Each chorus was allowed 30 minutes on stage, so it was quite a challenge to fit in all 7 of our Canadian-oriented songs. One piece we made sure to sing was Freedom is Near, a rousing song of pride composed by Gil Cote for our sister chorus, the Edmonton Vocal Minority. Our entrance on stage was marked by an almost deafening welcome. In our white Stetsons and Western costumes, we and our uniquely Canadian repertoire were a resounding hit. And this is the Rocky Mountain Singers celebrating post-Tampa, well-deserved summer party. So Steve actually said to me after that, it was, where do we go from here? And I guess after these festivals, international festivals, there's a bit of a denouement or letdown. And so Rocky Mountain Singers continued with their Christmas concerts. They also were an opening act for a gay and lesbian a cappella group called The Flirtations in '97. And then John Duell, who was a Rocky Mountain Singer and who I didn't actually get to talk to, and I now regret, so I'm going to go back and do an interview, was fired up from going to Tampa about hosting the next Gala Festival in Calgary. And there's representatives from Gala and the Calgary Tourism Chamber. They're scouting Calgary to see if it would be the appropriate place for a Gala Festival in the year 2000. Unfortunately, Rocky Mountain Singers could not get political support to bring the festival to Calgary. And I'm going to stop sharing to go to another video now. Oh no, I need to keep sharing. Sorry. Oops. No. Sorry. I need to move this.
We're just thrilled to have you here.
He'll bring official greetings at official openings, and he's eager to promote some special events. But when it comes to a gay and lesbian music festival, Mayor Al Dewar won't offer his support.
I'm sure that the Rotarians got a letter of support and the barber shoppers got a letter of support.
John Dool is one of the organizers trying to bring Gala 2000 to Calgary. As many as 10,000 gays and lesbians from around the world would spend a week and a half in our city for a music festival.
During that week, you will see men walking down the street holding hand, and you will see two women doing it too. And you know, it'll be an eye-opener for Calgary.
The committee that decides who will get the convention wants a letter of support from politicians. Al Dewar is in Asia and wasn't available for comment. However, he wrote, "If such a letter creates significant negative reaction within the community, the letter then benefits neither the city nor the requesting agency." Mayor Dewar came under fire from some Calgarians for officially recognizing Gay Pride Week in 1990. The Premier also refuses to sign a letter of support, but he won't say why.
I am not going to get into that, period. Thank you. Full stop. Right.
The committee will submit its bid next week, with or without the letters of support. Craig Paisley, CBC News, Calgary.
Okay, and so the bid was ultimately unsuccessful. But I have another quick video that I found digging through Calgary Queer History Archives, which I want to show you quickly from the same year, 97.
Because we're gonna have music start on the stage right away. All right. Thanks, buddy. Awesome job, buddy. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was 1997 Pride, and Steve remembers the concert at 97 Bronx to Broadway is one of his favorites in memory. And then in 1998, the very first beginning of a Canadian Gala Chorus Festival started in Edmonton. Edmonton Vocal Minority hosted it, and Rocky Mountain Singers, as well as Calgary Men's Chorus, who was now existing at that point, went up to it. And Rocky Mountain Singers also remember fond moments. And this is Nicole, who just spoke to us. That's her lanyard, which she has still kept. And one of her fellow chorusers wrote, "I'm single" on her name tag to maybe help her out in Edmonton. And then this is a picture of an earlier practice, and in the foreground is Bruce May in the blue coat there. And I just wanted to note that the Rocky Mountain Singers sometimes sang at people's funerals, former choristers. They also sang at celebrations as well, but that it was like a family in so many respects. Bruce May, incidentally, was very involved in GERC, which was a peer support organization in Calgary in the late 70s and 80s. And then in 1999, Rocky Mountain Singers arrived at their 10th anniversary concert. It was a great achievement to make it to 10. But Steve, who's music director at that time, was burnt out. He'd been active as the music director for 6 years and an accompanist before that. And it was very hard to find a replacement for him. And the choir started to lose members. This was a Christmas concert in '99. And I'm running a little bit out of time, so I'm going to zoom through the end. In 2000, the Gala Festival Chorus ended up being in San Jose, and Rocky Mountain Singers didn't have enough people with enough money to field a choir there, but 7 or 8 people went and joined the festival chorus and had a very good time. And Daryl shared a memory. There's a mix-up with their San Jose Festival hotel rooms, and they ended up 6 of them being in one room, 2 women and 4 men, and they only had 1 bed. But they ended up making the most of it and getting a lot closer. Eventually, the choir continued to lose members. Steve was asked back after a year's absence, and he went to the rehearsal, and there were only 8 people left. The last mention of the Rocky Mountain Singers in the Calgary Herald is in September 2001, where they used to post their Tuesday rehearsal open for business. They had elections to elect a new board of directors in October, and no one wanted to step forward at that point and continue. Everyone was burnt out. And so they ceased to exist. Daryl was the final treasurer and helped the society dissolve. They paid their final bills and they dispersed the remaining money and assets. They put out a call to choirs who needed things, and they ended up sending a lot of their sheet music to an emerging LGBTQ youth choir in Vancouver, and then some money also went to the Calgary Men's Chorus. And eventually they were struck from the society's list. The people that were the final members of the choir were quite sad. It felt like the end of an era, but also it seemed like it might have run its course. And then going into the future, Rocky Mountain Singers is fortunate that they have people like Luke and Richard who are sort of armchair archivists and keep everything. And Luke started a wonderful Facebook group with a lot of archival materials, but a lot of stuff has been donated to the Glenbow Museum collection, which is now housed at the University of Calgary. And then lifetime relationships were formed. Here's Luke and Carol White, who we met back in 1990 at a gala festival, I think in 2016, back in Denver. And then in Calgary in 2018, the Canadian Gala Festival, which eventually became Unison, came to Calgary, and I was privileged enough to attend that choral festival. It was really wonderful. And then I'm going to leave you with a song. So Judy told me that this song was really important to her. At one point, a lot of the choristers, some of the choristers had children, and they were invited up. She remembers singing this song with the children sort of in the foreground. And I'm going to leave you with a song.
supper saved, wash the dishes and put them away. I've told you a story, it tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me, may it keep you good company. Oh, you can be anybody you want to be, you can love whomever you will, you can travel any country where your heart leads, and know that I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. There are girls who grow up strong and bold, there are boys quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind, some go in their own way in time. Some women love women, some men love men, some raise children, some never do. You can dream all the days, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they'll give the same back to you. Or you can be anybody you want to be, you can love whomever you will, you can travel any country where your heart leads, and know that I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
And that concludes the formal part of the history presentation. And I've gone a little bit over in time, I'm sorry, but if people want to stay for a few minutes, you're welcome to put your hand up and ask a question, or I see there's so many former choristers here. If you want to share a memory, that you'd be welcome to too. We could probably go for 5 or 10 more minutes. There's a hand function under reactions, I think. So if you raise your hand, you get popped up to the top of the screen, and then I can see you. Or you can chat. Drew's monitoring the chat, I think. We don't have to have questions either. We can just say goodnight. Oh, hello. Go ahead. Yohi. I'm sorry, I might have not pronounced your name correctly. You just have to unmute yourself. Oh, maybe Drew, do you have to unmute everyone?
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Perfect. Sorry, it said I was not allowed to unmute myself. So first of all, hello everyone. My name is Yohei. I use he, him. I'm here in Newfoundland. It's actually 10 after midnight.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm the director of St. John's Gay Men's Chorus. Also, I'm part of Unison Choruses Canada, and I'm seeing a lot of faces that I have seen because I was running the virtual choir, National Virtual Choir project. So even although many people I haven't seen, but I know your face, so it's so great to see all of you. Thank you so much for sharing this story. This was so beautiful. It just reminded me why myself started my choir, and it was very encouraging. And also it's just so beautiful that the choir can be such an important place for so many people. And like what Nicole was talking about, that choir can be a family, your chosen family, when our own family can't accept us. Fortunately, I have my own family in Japan who are very understanding and acceptable. But at the same time, this morning I just wrote on my Facebook that Japan is going through a very critical moment in terms of the LGBTQ right now. And I was reading a lot of negative comments and not feeling great this morning. So to be able to finish this day with this webinar was really great. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for joining. And you really finished your day quite late. So thank you for joining us.
I'm nightfall, so I'm good.
It's your time zone. Sarah, you have your hand up.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I would love to hear from Penny and Suzanne and from Judy and geez, Matt and Michael. But I am so crushed that when I was just coming out kind of at that time, I didn't know to go and see some of the choir performances, because that would have been huge for me. I would have just been so impacted by that. And I feel like it was a missed opportunity. I think I was a jock and I was just doing sports stuff, but you know, I would really love to hear from you all about your experiences. So please share.
Does someone want to pick that up? I mean, there was an interesting comment that a couple of people made when I was doing the interviews, that Rocky Mountain Singers was really well known in Calgary, but not always well attended. So it was something that everyone liked to have in the community, but would not necessarily come out, you know, and buy tickets for. So that was always a bit of a struggle for the choir. Did anyone want to make a comment about that, or Matt, you go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Matt Glusty. I was a member of the Rocky Mountain Singers for 2 years in the early 90s. And I'm on the board of Unison Canada. Yeah, I think part of the problem in the early 90s was something that was a problem with all the organizations in the city, is that there was a fairly good-sized gay community, but they didn't support a lot of the community groups. I was a member of Apollo at that time, and I can remember Apollo Western Cup. The dances were very popular. That part of the Western Cup was very popular, but coming to the gym to watch the volleyball teams, or to go to the bowling alleys and watch the bowling, people in the general community didn't participate that much in those types of things. So I think that's what we suffered from, shyness back then, and fear, and you know, guilt by association. So a lot of our attendees to our concerts back then were very close friends and family that were open and accepting, or felt free to come to these events. And yeah, it was something that was unfortunate, but I think it's completely changed now. But it is interesting to note that it was something I forgot until you just mentioned.
Yeah, people talked about the fear they might have had about being outed and being a public performance, but a lot of the fear was in people's minds, as it turned out. No one could remember like a really negative outing incident, that the wrong person showed up at a performance and, you know, their life was ruined as a result. So it was sort of scarier in theory than it was in reality. And I have another question, Penny. Hi, Penny.
Hi, I'm just going to make you all really old. Zachary was 34 last week. So, you know, if you all want to feel really old, that's great. Rocky Mountain Singers to me was, I think I participated for probably about 9 years. And I was the chairperson for a few years. For me, it was family. For Sue, it was family. Sue joined because she became the choir widow. So she ended up coming and joining in as well. But for us, it was a part of being a family. There was nowhere else to kind of come out. And I have very fond memories of a lot of people here on this broadcast, and those I'll treasure forever. I think that it was an amazing time. I'm sad that the choir folded, but I think that it ran its course, and there was time for new blood and new choruses and new programs to come out. So while I think it served a purpose, I think that eventually other things were sprouted because of it, and time grew on. And then I think also we had a child and we ended up focusing on different things and taking the government to court and those kinds of things. So we ended up changing our focus a little bit. But I remember Rocky Mountain Singers as being very special. That's it.
Please come back.
We do have one question in the chat. I'm not sure how if we're able to answer, but the question is, will there be a reunion concert? I don't know, but wanted to flag that for us.
Well, I mean, I would love to, I'd love to be all in the same room with you. I'm finding it getting a little long being in my house all the time, as I'm sure you all are as well. But when we get to the other side of this pandemic, it would be nice to have a reunion in any sort of form. And I think we might be able to convince Luke to come out from Vancouver. Probably not that hard. It'd be nice to, doing this history work. It's so much better if you can get people in the same room together, because people's memories are triggered by each other. You don't know what you remember until someone else jogs your memory. And so selfishly, as a historian, I'd like to hear those conversations and so let's keep that, in the back burner for in-person get together. And Penny, I did hear that Zachary was an MC at one of the concerts with Richard when he was 6 or 7, I think. So I noted that as a really wonderful Rocky Mountain Singer moment.
Yes, it was great. He thought it was fabulous. He talks fondly about you, Richard. He still talks about you.
Richard is a grunkle now. So when my nieces and nephews have children, I'm going to make them call me Grunkle, because I had never heard that before.
I've never heard that.
Well, I think maybe kind of coming to a natural conclusion. Drew, did you say there was, we had that one question from the chat about a reunion? There's one more question. Maybe we'll take this as our last one. Almonds.
Everyone's going off in the chat about the fact that I'm 34 now, so I thought I'd say hi.
Oh, hi.
I'm Penny and Sue's son. Can you hear me? I'm not actually 100% sure my setup's working. Okay, great. Yeah, the one memory I definitely have of emceeing that concert is the first time I ever really bombed a joke, which was what kind of amphibian do you hang from the door during Christmas? And it was mistletoe, and there was no laughter, no reaction at all. So that's my memory of that concert.
Your delivery's better now, I think.
Hopefully.
Judy, you have something to say?
Zachary, I can't believe that's you. Okay, I have to tell a story about Zachary though.
Oh no.
So Zachary, I now work for Children's Services. So Zachary he was a very chatty young boy, and he was such a cute little blonde boy, but he had lots of words, and One day he was up in his room yelling and screaming because he had been timed out from his parents. And he wanted a milk carton. And we couldn't figure out why he wanted a milk carton. But the kids' helpline number was on the milk carton, and he was screaming out his window for someone to bring him a milk carton. Oh my God, I can't believe you have just grown up so much.
Jane.
As we're wrapping up our evening, I wanted to offer, especially to the RMS alumni, but really to anybody who wants to stay in the conversation. I get the sense it's been a long time since you all have been in the same space together. So I wanted to offer, if Drew's okay with this, that we could just unmute microphones when Kevin feels that we're finished with the presentations, so y'all can just chat and catch up together. And while I've got the floor, I really want to thank Kevin Allen for putting this together for us. An amazing job checking with everybody and bringing us all together to tell this amazing story tonight. So thank you, Kevin, and thank you to all the RMS folks who are here. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. So I'm like ready for my glass of wine now. I haven't had any so that I could be sober for the presentation, and then looking forward to it. So I think this is it. This is it for me. I guess the room will stay open for people who want to chat. I'm going to sign off and de-stress. But I really want to thank everyone who helped me with this research and sent me videos and songs. We have a lot more than you think. I didn't have time to include it, but there are some recordings and some videos. I'm going to collect all this stuff and archive it properly. But I also want to thank Michael, Matt, Suzanne, Judy, Luke, Sharon, Nicole, Patrick, Dan, Richard, Steve, and Daryl, who took time to share their stories with me. And there's more people who I want to talk to, who I see on this call. And have a good night.